Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the First World Manila podcast. And this is going to be a short episode because I'm tired. My name is Ramon Rodrigo Calo Cuenca, CFA, by the way. I am the founder and director of First World Manila. First World Manila, for all of you who are new, is it's a brand that makes learning about Manila and the Philippines longer term economic and urban development interesting and also getting people interested in Philippine cultural revitalization. Um, and I'll get to that in a second. So those are basically the three main objectives of First of Manila. Um, Today's episode is going to be on about Kris Aquino, social class, and what we can learn from her. And obviously, this is more of a culture episode rather than a policy episode. So yeah, just like last week when I was talking about your road and what language we should speak. So this is something along those lines. So this falls under the broader umbrella of one of First World Manila's missions, which is to get people more interested in cultural revitalization. And what I mean by that is that um, what I think is needed in the Philippines and Manila is a stronger sense of national identity and culture. um, in previous episodes, I've referenced that famous Atlantic article. I forgot by whom, but look it up. Philippines damaged culture. So I think to really fix things here and to obviously get the long-term economic development and urban planning policies going, by the voted in by the voted in by the public for and making that the mandate of whoever becomes elected president. To get that going, you don't need it's not just about um, educating people on economic policy and stuff. You also have to instill a vision and a sense of identity to them. Otherwise, as I said before, why go through why go through all the trouble of of doing all these hard things when you can just leave the country and work hard and make a living elsewhere and just send money back, which is sort of what's happening now. So the reason why culture is important again is because with other countries that have a stronger sense of culture, at least in my opinion, you've seen greater strides in economic development. So you think of like Japan or Taiwan, South Korea, for example. Um, they have a stronger sense of identity than we do, I think. Um, I mean, I could go on and on about how Japan kind of created its own national culture, and then people worked hard to sort of bring Japan from like a poor country to like a rich country. But yeah, along those lines. So that's something that's needed here in the Philippines. So, but I think to do that, to sort of bring, what I'd like to do is, I think a focal point of revitalizing our national culture is looking at, looking towards the Ilustrados and their background and their values and social graces, just because those are our nationalists and intellectuals during a time when we really came onto our own. So I want to make those kinds of that sort of Ilustrado like values and aspirate, or sorry, excuse me, Ilustrado lifestyle and values and goals. I want to make that aspirational for people. And obviously that's a big mission. So I'm always willing to learn from how other people have succeeded. And one person who has succeeded very much in selling aspiration, which is what I want to do with First of Manila, is Kris Aquino. She is very, very good at selling aspiration to people across all social classes, I believe. Um, and I want to spend this short episode dissecting what it is about her that makes people like her. I mean, it's funny because she's obviously from a very privileged background. Um, Maybe the fact that her father is Ninoy helped, uh, but a lot of people across, and this is across actually different social classes. There are people who love her and hate her, but there are people who love her, who live lifestyles that are very much so different from hers. But again, she's selling them a dream and aspiration that people aspire to in some ways. Um, and before I go any further, I'm not gonna hate on her. Certainly, people I know, the people I grew up with, a lot of them kind of don't take her seriously or laugh at her, or I mean, I do, and I've seen her content. It's certainly not for people like me, but I can understand the appeal to a lot of other people. But whatever people say about her, I don't know her personally. She might be a very, very nice and wonderful person, but I can see why she takes on a persona, at least publicly, on the media that some people don't like. I mean, when you enter showbiz, you have to, at least traditionally with showbiz, you have to, for lack of a better word, pander to the lowest common denominator. Um, especially because most people in this country are poor. You kind of have to pander to people, um, and in maybe in ways that might put off some other people. Um, which isn't to say everyone in any grouping is likes her or everything like that, because I've met people from all sorts of backgrounds who like her and dislike her. So it's actually whatever her popularity or dislike of her is not always along class lines. So there's that. But what I'm interested in is that she sells aspiration across different class barriers, for lack of a better word. So that's something I want to learn too from her. Um, so I did talk to some people who like her, and they just say like she speaks her mind. Um, uh, she speaks her mind. She's not afraid to say what she has to say, and even someone even brought up the fact that the subject of divorce, and I believe her marriage with her ex is annulled here. I'm not sure. I don't really follow her very closely, but um, what the underlying pattern I see is that, I mean, aside from just selling a lifestyle that she's well off, and she's obviously very financially successful and stable. She also sells something that's relatable to a lot of people. Not everyone, but to a lot of people who maybe what she says and does is what a lot of people think inside. So, and again, some people are like that, some people aren't. But clearly she's very successful, so she's obviously tapped into what a lot of people in this country feel. So the sense I'm getting here is that it's not only that she can just go out and sell aspiration, because there's so many celebrities who are rich and who can do that theoretically, but for me it's not just aspiration, but also that she comes across as very real and relatable to people. Um, Sort of, she's not afraid to be herself or who she really is, or at least she's good at. If that's not who she really is, and she's a good actress. But clearly, she knows what makes a lot of people tick, and she just doesn't act in accordance to that. And I can understand that too, again, because of the economics of showbiz. To make a profit from that huge capital investment, traditionally with TV and everything, you have to get people's attention. They have to talk about you. You kind of have to pander, for lack of a better word. So I can understand where she's going with that. Um, so that's something that's a challenge for me, is to make sort of our maybe a more, what some might consider more. I mean, I want to sell aspiration as well with First World Manila, but I want it to be a more refined sense to it. Again, I always want to harken back to the legacy and the heritage of the Ilustrados. If you've ever seen any of my artwork, by the way, for those who are new, First World Manila is also a vehicle through which I show my art representing a rich version, a first world version of Manila. If you look at my artwork, a lot of it is very much inspired by old Manila, and I think I've had a successful exhibit based on that, and just looking at what people click on and all these Facebook groups like Filipinas Nostalgia, My Manila, Oficialización de Español en Filipinas, all these sorts of things, all these Facebook groups. I mean, I think there's a lot of there's a significant amount of people who sort of miss what Manila and our culture was maybe at the turn of the 20th century. and what we could be, and we could be based on, I guess, those ideals and those values and that sort of aspiration. So the challenge for what I want to do is make that kind of aspiration, the Illustrado aspiration, relatable to a larger group of people, and that's something I want to continue working on. So that's it, really. Obviously, before I say, before I finish up, I want to make that Illustrado aspiration aspirational across different sort of backgrounds or social class boundaries, like how Kris Aquino has done with her own brand. So that's basically what I want to do. So that's the end of this quick episode. Today's Tagalog Spanish vocab is, again, we're going with the basics. Last week it was yo, which is ikaw. This week it's tu. Sorry, excuse me. It was yo, which is ako. Getting my notes mixed up. Yo is ako, and this week tu is ikaw. Tu, ikaw. Tu, tu, ikaw. All right. So that's it for this episode. If you like what you've listened to, please subscribe to my podcast or download. This is a weekly podcast, or you can subscribe to me on YouTube. Next week, I'll be going back and looking at more policies and stuff, and seeing what we can support over the long term that will really make economic growth here inclusive and increase the standard of living of everybody. Okay, that's it for this week. See you next Tuesday. Have a good evening.